Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for being with me today. It's an incredible privilege to get to speak an event like this. If I wasn't speaking right now, I'd be sitting where you are watching. Just the opportunity to be with you, with peers, and to share the stage with the likes of the people that I'm sharing the stage with is just incredible. So, Boris, thank you so much for that privilege. Now, we're going to have a little bit of a roller coaster over the next 30 minutes because I'm here to say that you have been lied to. I really, truly believe it, right? There is a lie that has been told to each and every single one of us, and it's something that we need to figure out because it's getting in the way of what we do with presentations. That lie is that nobody cares about your story. Now, because the world of professional speakers are very, very quick, or professional trainers, to say, tell a story, tell a story, tell a story. I don't know if any of you saw the guy, James Clear, a few weeks ago on Twitter. He wrote this whole long thread about, hey, he's done 100 plus talks and he's finally figured out what makes his talks great. And his answer is, tell a story. As if that's, okay, that's so easy. Oh, yeah, right. Oh, that's what I was supposed to do. And they say things like this. The fact that he's maybe that he's done 100 plus keynotes isn't what got him dialed in, that he's practicing in public and getting better. But this is one of these lies that I'd like to address and maybe reframe slightly today. But even I've been lying a little bit to you today because it's not just about this. In fact, I want to call it nobody cares about your story and other lies about presentations. Now, let me tell you why I think this matters. I think it matters because if we can reframe our brains around presentations, people hate them. Like, people say they're scared of doing them, they don't enjoy it, they see them as a chore, they see often attending them as a chore. Now, this audience may be different. Boris, your mic is live, so it's coming through just when I'm speaking. I don't know if it's possible to turn that off. Thanks, man. So what's happening? Sorry, that was just throwing me a wee bit. So for me, it's very, very critical that we reframe our minds in this regard. And I'll tell you what happened. I personally hated presentations. I used to be a roadie. I used to tour with rock bands like Iron Maiden and Def Leppard, and it was an amazing start to my career. But then what happened is quickly in winter in South Africa, where I live, people don't go to concerts. Now, this is crazy because I come from Scotland. If people didn't go to concerts when it was cold in Scotland, there would never be any concerts. But in the off season, I would go and I would work on the conference side of things. And I would go try and sell conferences to people because they worked all year round. And I got so frustrated by bad presentations that I realized that this was something I wanted to get passionate about. Now, this leads me into one of the first lies, and maybe slightly irrelevant to this presentation, but I think it was worth mentioning anyway. And it's that lie that we've all been told about chasing your passion. Do what you love, and you will never work a day in your life. Ladies and gentlemen, if I did what I loved, what I'd like to be doing right now, I'd be on my motorcycle. I'd be a pizza delivery guy because I love riding my bike. Hopefully less like this guy, more like this guy, but there we have it. Now, so that brings me to my job, is I think that what we've got to do, real change happens when you can fall in love with your frustration, when you can fall in love with what you hate. And that's what I want to do with you today. I want to flick a switch, bah! And I want to flick a switch for you because I started a presentation company, not because I loved them, but because I was so frustrated by them that I thought there had to be a better way. So I started Missing Link 24 years ago when I was 22 years old, and my love affair with my frustration in presentations has continued throughout that time. And I want to share some of that with you because I want you to get frustrated. And why? Because there's a missed opportunity. This, for me, is our unfair advantage. When people change their mind around presentations as a whole, when they change the way they think about presentations and the way that we tell stories within them, I believe it will become an unfair advantage for you in every aspect of your career. To illustrate this, I was a story that I like to tell. I was having a chat to my son, Callum, and he used to really be wanting to follow in his dad's footsteps and become a speaker and present. And he said to me one day, "I don't want to be a speaker anymore, Dad." And I was like, "Oh, that's okay. What do you want to be?" He said, "I want to be an astrophysicist." I was like, that's pretty cool. Astrophysics, who's your hero? He said, "Oh, Neil deGrasse Tyson." I said, "Neil deGrasse Tyson is great. How do you know about him?" He said, "Oh, I saw this amazing talk that he did." And I was like, yes. And I said, "Kiddo, even if you want to be an astrophysicist that can speak will always have an unfair advantage over an astrophysicist that can't. Keep up your speaking." And to me, that's true in any field. An expert that can speak always has an unfair advantage over one that can't. Being able to pump your prezzo, to deliver presentations that people want to listen is something that will have you really, really great, set you in a really, really great foundation. And that's what we want to chat about. And in fact, Oh, I don't know if it's anything like you, but last year, a case in point for me, this all came crashing in, and I really had to see if my belief in presenting could form an unfair advantage for me. On the 15th of March last year, by 10 a.m., our company revenue was zero. And so I took to the stage. I was presenting within a week, doing online events, training people how to do online events. Guys, I had no idea what I was doing. My first online event was called How to Create Presentations Online That Rock. That was my first online presentation I'd ever done. I was kind of figuring it out. I was building the parachute on the way down, but it was great. And I presented more and more and more, and we employed what we refer to as stage marketing. Now, I knew it was a thing before, but now I realize, wow, this isn't a little thing. This is a huge thing. By being a leader, by being out there on stages, on these virtual stages that exist now, and there's lots of them, you're able to actually grow your authority. Lucky thing was, by 19th of May, our company revenue got back to 100%. By August, we had our best month in the company in the last 18 months. And by September, we'd had our best revenue in 23 years. And you know what it was? It was that I loved taking to the stage, and I realized the value in stage marketing, and my team really, really pushed me behind me, but also that there were more stages than ever at any other point in human history. There are more opportunities for you to step up and speak and to lead loud than there ever have been. So we have to take advantage of that. The problem is, people are telling us and spinning all of these stories that are holding us back. And I think that what I want to do today is flip the switch on that. I want to introduce you to 5 lies and hopefully turn them into 5 lessons. If that is something that's of appeal to you, then stick around. So where do we start with this? Well, before we get into storytelling, and I promise you, I'm going to get there. That's a very, very important part of this. But before we get into this, I need to talk to you about one very, very big thing. And that is this: death by PowerPoint. Now, I'm not using PowerPoint today. I'm using a tool called Prezi, which I love, and I know the Prezi team are presenting today. Be sure to go check out Spencer when he presents. However, I love Prezi, it's great, but I also love PowerPoint. I think PowerPoint is a phenomenal tool. In fact, if I was doing this presentation in person, I would be using PowerPoint behind me there. People hate PowerPoint. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. Blaming PowerPoint for a bad presentation is like blaming the pan for a bad meal. PowerPoint isn't crap. You are crap, all right? If people are saying, oh, it's death by PowerPoint, that's on you, right? Here's the thing. PowerPoint is very simple. Prezi, PowerPoint, all of them, they're not going to make you better. You know what's going to make you better? Preparing. To me, when people ask me about, oh, how'd you get a standing ovation on stage? Well, it's never easy, but you need to understand one thing. Your ovation, it's earned in your preparation, not in your presentation. Sure, the delivery matters, but you getting that message dialed in at the beginning, that's what's going to make it worthwhile for you. That's where you earn your ovation. I was listening to a podcast with Boris and Jessica Chen the other day. And they were talking about rehearsals, now how many rehearsals you do. Now, I did rehearse last night. I stood up, I timed it, I got everything ready to go to present for you today. However, I did one full run through. But you know what I did? Rewrites and reworks of this content about 10 times. Because the more you rewrite, the less you have to rehearse. Because once you figure it out and you get your little segues and your links, everything works better. Blaming PowerPoint is simply letting yourself off the hook for bad preparation. And to me, the lesson in this one is very, very simple. It's never been about PowerPoint. Prezi, PowerPoint, these tools, they can help enhance your presentation, but they're not your presentation. You are. So the very, very simple message for me is always, you write a good talk before you design one, before you deliver one, right? A good presentation should be written before it's designed, before it's delivered. And that's the first lie to the first lesson that I want to talk about today. The second one, and this is a big deal for me. And this is one, by the way, that I have really, really internally struggled with at times as well. And that is, again, the other Captain Obvious thing people say to you. Guys, you want to deliver 5 things to make your presentation better. 1, avoid death by PowerPoint. 2, tell a story. 3, know your audience. Okay, how? Mr. Presentation Coach, how are we going to do that? What am I going to do? Am I going to stalk the 1,100 people signed into this conference when I last checked? Am I going to go online? What do I know? I know there's presentation professionals. I know your context. I know you're curious about presenting, but I can't know who you are. And this is, people have said to me throughout my career, oh, you're speaking to a group of bankers, be conservative. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, good day to you. My name is Richard Mulholland. Both something bigger. That's a joke from the IT Crowd, season 2, I think episode 2. If you don't know it, never mind. Anyway, so, but like bankers see through it. And also, bankers aren't boring. You know, bankers, almost any big senior banker that I worked with, they almost all did well at university. They went to university. You know what people at university do? They play beer pong and other silly things. And they get up to all kind of endeavors and mischief. And they're just human beings like the rest of you. And they're actually, quite frankly, sick of people walking in and be like, hello there, hello. They want to be human. And I see them at their conferences. They all go crazy. Their ties around their head. They're jumping into swimming pools in their suits like crazy people. But people present to them like they're a job, and they're not. Again, I've fallen into this trap. I was doing a talk to a group of literally billionaires in Saudi Arabia. And I was like, how do you speak to a Saudi billionaire? And I'm sitting there, hello, ladies and gentlemen, or hello, gentlemen, blah, 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 blah. And going through this presentation, I was so nervous. And I was trying, and you can see these guys sitting uncomfortably. And then I realized, you know what I'm crap at? You know what I'm absolutely the worst person at being in this room? A Saudi billionaire. I mean, listen, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I dig a shot, but I am the world's worst Saudi billionaire. And yet, so this is what's happened. So I'm trying to present like them. Eventually, halfway through, I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to be myself. They booked me for a reason. They saw the tattoos and the stupid haircut, and they still invited me to come over. Why am I trying to be them? They hired me. I saw this again. I was speaking in Mexico for a group called the Entrepreneurs Organization. Oh, and by the way, just because I love this picture so much, at the end of it, I said to these guys, hey, this is how I pose for photos. And these like Saudi billionaires are all like, it was incredible. I was speaking at a talk for Entrepreneurs Organization in Mexico, and there was a point where there was people from Latin America, so they spoke Portuguese, Spanish, we had people in English, and there was a whole mixed group, and I was so nervous that my humor and culture wouldn't get across. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? Anyway, the unfortunate thing about this particular gig is it was going over my son's birthday, and it was a huge opportunity. So I spoke to him. He said, cool, Dad, you must definitely go. And I went and I presented. And my first thing I said, hey, everybody, it's a privilege to be here, but it's my son's birthday. Could I ask you a favor? Could you sing happy birthday? And everybody sang happy birthday to my son. Now, all of a sudden, I'm me, but I'm like them because, you know, I'm a dad or, you know, a parent. And so that endeared me. Then I said, look, I'm an entrepreneur like you. I'm a fellow member of the organization, and I've been a past president, so I found shared context. Still being me, I found shared context, and then I'm like, oh, cool, this guy's all right. And then I said, now listen, my humor may be slightly different to yours. And on the way here, I was to give you an illustration. On the way here, I rewatched the movie The Hangover. Has anyone seen The Hangover? Have you seen The Hangover? And people like smile and nod. And then I could see a little mischievous grin. I said, listen, I promise you, I may say some off-color jokes during this presentation, but nothing. If you made it through that movie, nothing will be worse than seeing Mr. Chow jump out of that boot. Do you remember that scene? And all of a sudden, the entire audience was reframed to that being the level of the presentation. So they were no longer, you know, if I say shit right now, you're like, oh, you can't say shit in a corporate presentation. Why? You're going to go home tonight, you're going to watch Netflix, and you're not going to think twice about it. But we've got to change the context. And by the way, I don't particularly want to swear in this. I just want to illustrate that point. Right? We have this weird set of setting the norm of what a presentation would be. Change the norm. What I did that day is I didn't know my audience. What I did know is one thing about my audience that is critical to know. I know my audience, you and everybody else, has this finely tuned BS detector, right? And it's like scanning speakers constantly, and it's looking to see, are they being authentic? Are they talking crap? And if all of a sudden I started with, ladies and gentlemen, good day to you today. My name is Richard Mulholland, and I want to talk to you about right? But if I get down to myself, you'll let me go. Because here's the thing. I don't want to go to my audience because you are not a collective noun. Each one of you on side of that camera is an individual. Audience doesn't exist. Audience members exist. And I can't know all of you. What I can know is myself. So I want to be the best version of myself at any given day and try bring you to where I live. And that's lesson number 2. Don't know your audience except to know that they have an authenticity detector. Know the context, create shared context, and be the best version of yourself you can be. This brings me to number 3. This one's a doozy. And I get it. And I understand where it came from. And listen, this one's not strictly a complete lie, but the way it's told is a lie. And it's maybe more, if I could have called it, 4 lies and a hyperbole, then that would have been more accurate. But the next lie is body language. Can we take a second to discuss the Moravian myth? So old Moravian, he does this study way back in, say, the 50s or the 60s. And basically gets 10 people into a room, 10 ladies, I think 5 and then 5, and tests one word with them. Okay, it delivers one word. The word is, say the word fine a few different times. Fine, Fine. Oh, fine. Right. And just that one word. And then it was all of a sudden, well, the problem is the word itself is the same, but it doesn't tell us anything. We have to look for other cues when given one word. So he wrote this thing down and realized that in the very small subset of 10 people, 38% is tone of voice. Fine. Words are 7%, fine, because the word was the same every time. And body language is the different, oh, fine. So now every presentation, guys, body language. It's not about what you say, it's how your tone of voice. Rubbish, right? If you didn't need to know, if you were able to, if body language was everything and the words only, your words only count 7%. What a crock, right? Then you could watch like, kung fu movies without the subtitles on, because you know our body language is here right now with this. Sorry, not sorry. Well, sorry, I don't want to offend you, but I do want to illustrate a point. Okay, and by the way, this isn't universal. I am a fan of toast. I do love making a good slice of toast. Do you like toast? I love toast. In fact, one would say that I would like to master the art of making toast by being a toast master. I would like to master toast. And Toastmasters, being a Toastmaster, is incredible. But ladies and gentlemen, sometimes when I watch the Toastmaster finals, world best Toastmaster champion, three things. One, only by standing. What is going on? This is interpretive dance. Like, what is going on? These presentations are so overacted because we're so worried about our body language. Stop, move across the stage. 3 step, 3 step, 3 step, stop, power pose. Your body language is asshole, right? Like, honestly, I don't know what you're speaking here. You know what the body language needs to be? It's natural, right? If you have got to the point where you're really starting to think about your body language, if you're confident, nobody who's confident and passionate about a topic, any topic, the most introverted person, by the way, I guarantee you, I'm the most introverted person on this call. I'm fine like this, but I'm terrible in a room. The most introverted person stops being introverted, their body opens up and their hands go when you talk to them about a topic they're passionate about. Do the work beforehand, rewrite then before, you don't need to rehearse, and then you will deliver. Then body language will come naturally. And sure, when you want to perfect your craft, then we're going to start working at it. And sure, we'll tell you little things, don't put both hands in your pockets, things like this, but these are all just rules, and they're there to help. By the way, I just want to say, pause. While researching, trying to make this slide, which I spent way too much time on remove.bg creating that little Karate Kid bandana. But I did also find this toaster, and I've never wanted anything more in my life. So if any of you speak to my wife, Jasmine, 16th of October, my birthday, let her know that I'm in the market for a Death Star toaster. Anyway, I digress. Body language, it's a thing. Now, as I said, it's not strictly a lie. Your body language can do a job, but you know what its job is? It's not the speech. It's not like 55% of it, and your words aren't 7% of it. Heck, your words are important. You know what your body language is? It's not a language, but it is punctuation. Your body language is not the language, but it can be the punctuation. Small little things you can do can make a huge difference, but don't worry about that until later. That's a tweak. That's the garnish on the plate of your presentation. If you want to do small little things, for me, if you're presenting online, a small little tip that you can make to amplify your body language, stand up, stand and deliver, present that way. That's great. Now, I promised you something at the beginning and we finally got here. And yes, I get it. Your story. Nobody cares about your story. This brings us to the next of our lies, and that is tell a story. Again, James Clear. Guys, you want to be good at this? Tell a story. Oh my goodness. Okay, brilliant. That's all I had to. What? Okay, first of all, this is actually not strictly true, because we start to think, people are like, oh, I want to show up, I've got this great story. In fact, in one of my presentation coaching calls recently, a person stood up and told us a story they want to tell in the presentation. And I said, why do you want to tell this? They're like, well, it's a great story. Sure thing. And occasionally there's room for that, but that's only if it's an absolute crowd pleaser. Let me explain to you and try and reframe what I think storytelling should be seen for you. right? So I used to have this dog called Murphy. Now, not this dog, I guess he was a boxer. Super obedient, amazing dog. We did track work, tracking. I did man work with him. I did agility. He was so obedient. I could put him in a stay, walk around the perimeter of the house, come back, he'd still just be sitting there. He wouldn't eat from anybody else. I could put down food in front of him. Wait, take it, Murphy, good boy. And that was it. Amazing obedient dog. There's only one thing in which he was not obedient at all, completely and utterly defiant. When Murphy was sick, and again, dog owners, you know what I'm talking about here, cat owners as well. When Murphy was sick and I had to give him medicine, he was like, no way, bro. I will not take one of these things. These are not treats. And you can try, give a dog a pill, and it'll stick up there. In fact, you can even smuggle it in a big bowl of its kibble, and eventually the bowl will be clean. You could perform surgery on that bowl, but there'll be one little pill sitting there. Am I right? Right. So, but luckily we're humans, we've evolved, we've figured this out, and we have this trick, this technique to deliver a pill, and that is peanut butter. You take a little dollop here, wrap it in this thing, and what I would do is I'd put it down, I'd show him, give him a little bit of peanut butter first, get him going, his big lips, and then I would put a blob together, stuck the pill in it, put it on the floor and say, no, leave it, and Murphy now starts to shake. His bum, if you know boxers, their kidney bean, and his bum is he's doing like a dog twerk. Like, oh, all the single ladies, I'm trying now, it's not good. Right, he's doing this dog twerk thing, and I'm saying, stay, and I'm stay, stay, take it. Ooh. And he's going in there, he's like, and he eats this pill, and then he stops, and he looks at me, and he's like, I see what you did there. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. And gives me those puppy dog eyes. But my job was done. I delivered the pill. That's the job of a story. It's not about the story. Nobody cares about your story. They are sick little animals, and we're trying to make them better. We as presenters are trying to make people better versions of themselves, who they were before. You're trying to make them better afterwards. Our job, every presentation, ladies and gentlemen, for me, is a two-part job: to deliver a message, to achieve a result. If I just gave Murphy the peanut butter, he would not get better. If I just gave him the pill, it would be too bitter to swallow. That's presentations and storytelling. The pill is the payload, right? The pill is what you're trying to get in there. That's always where you start. What am I trying to? I'm trying to make job number one. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to make them better. Job number two, I need to give them this pill. Try give them the pill, just the facts, the data, the detail by itself. Oh, it's too bitter. People don't want to consume it. Just give them the peanut butter. Well, that's just a story. It's delicious, but I'm no better. Wrap that peanut butter in the pill in the perfect ratio. Boom, you win. Your story is the wooden horse of Troy that is going to get your message into their brain. That's what it is. And again, it's their brain, their thing that matters. That's the other thing we don't understand about story. You know, in the foreword to my book, Storyteller, and I'll tell you details about this in a bit, my old business partner, Don Packett, he wrote this, and I hate that I think it's the best line in the whole book, but he wrote this and he said, there are two stories in sales, yours and the one that matters. And the one that matters isn't yours. It's not your story. I don't know if any of you have ever read the book I Am Keats by Tom Essaker. If you haven't, I highly recommend it. I first heard about it on a podcast. There was a guy called Matt Brown, the Matt Brown Show podcast with Tom Essaker. If you want to check it, if somebody wouldn't mind maybe having a quick look, browsing Tom Essaker, Matt Brown podcast, and sharing a link in the chat, that would be incredible. Thank you so much. I should have done that. But a great book. But he talks about the idea that everybody's in their own movie, right? Everybody's in the film of their own life. We're all the stars. I remember noticing it once. I was walking through the airport in Cape Town, coming back from my weekly commute. And there's a guy who stands there every day. There's these counters as you get through, and they say, taxi service. And people just walk past them. Like they don't even, no thank you. Just, oh, how dare this person interrupt me? And they just walk past. And one day I had been reading this book and I thought, this guy is the star in his own film. And everyone is walking past him like he's an extra. And I decided from that day forward, I'm going to turn around and I can't explain to you. Like the guy actually looked shocked. Taxi? No, thank you, man. Have a great day. It's like, oh, thanks, you too, bro. And we move on, and that's it. And every time, no, thank you. Have a great day. Always asks, never remembers me. One day he'll be like, ah. But it doesn't matter because and this is how you have to think about your audience. It's their story that matters. In a story, to me, we talk about a cast of 4 people. There's a hero, There's a dragon, the thing we're trying to solve, the sick dog, the sickness is the dragon. There's a weapon, and that's where you come in. And there is, of course, and it doesn't really make sense as a cast, but stick with me, there is an action, right? Something has to, whoa, contrast ratio. Something has to be done at the end of this presentation. Why? Because it's not about the presentation, it's always about the action. There's a great quote by a friend of mine, his name's Neil Mulholland. He came to my office once and he's got this big booming voice. He turned around and we were talking about something, about some idea and knowledge. And we were talking about knowledge. He turned around and said, Richard, you know what? If action followed knowledge, we'd all have six packs. And he's right. It's not ever about the knowledge. It's always about the action. We all know what it takes to get a six pack, but we don't have it. So that's what it's about for me. We need to understand what our role is in this story. Now, to illustrate this, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to relay a story to you from my childhood. I'm very curious in the chat, fastest fingers first, who here knows? I'm going to read to you the opening lines of a book, a classic, if you will. Who here knows what this is? Let's see who gets it. Right. Whoever gets it, I'm going to send you a copy of my presentation book. Boredom's there if you want it. Of course, Boris will give me the details. But here we go. First, fastest fingers first. Right. So the year is 50 BC. Gaul is entirely occupied by the Romans. Well, not entirely. One small village of indomitable Gauls still holds out against the invaders. And life is not easy for the Roman legionnaires who garrison the fortified camps of Tortorium, Aquarium, Laudanum, and Compendium. Did anybody get it? Of course, the answer is Asterix the Gladiator. By the way, I told the story in the US. Everyone just looked at me blankly like, bruh, never heard of it. There's a lesson for you, at least knowing the context of your audience. It still worked. It's still a great story. They got it. They got it. Not too complicated to follow. Right. So remember Asterix. And it could have been Asterix to anything because they're all basically the same. Story starts off. We're in this little village. Everyone's happy. All of a sudden, Romans. There's Romans everywhere. Oh, look, it's the Romans. Go home, Romans. No. Romans go home. Conjugate the verb. Again, that's another really very narrow audience will get the reference to that joke. But if you do, we can be friends. I'm curious in the chat if you got it right. I'll come back and I'll check afterwards. Conjugate your verb. Anyway, so Romans arrive. And all of a sudden, this is terrible. There's a lot of them. This little dude, Asterix, he's got to take care of them. Now, Asterix by himself is not going to do too well. Luckily, he too has an unfair advantage. And that is delivered to him by this guy here. His name is Getafix. Getafix creates this magic potion. It's amazing. He gives it to Asterix. Asterix walks towards the Romans and boom, all of a sudden, there he is. And he's got his potion. He's ready to go. The Romans come out and bah, that's it. He collects the hats and he goes home. Incredible. So this makes you pose the question then, who is the hero? Who is the hero in this story? Because Asterix was just a guy. He's just one of the Gauls. Isn't the hero Getafix? And by the way, Getafix. Can we take a moment? Get a fix. Breaking Bad. I'm very proud of this image. Anyway, here's the thing. If you went to Getafix and you said to him, hey, Getafix, bro, Getty, my boy, who's the hero of this story? Isn't it you? He would say, no, the hero is Asterix. And that's the message. Asterix is always the hero. Asterix is always the hero. It's never been about you in a presentation. We see this in companies showing up to do sales presentations. They stand up and they go, I, me, we. We go through this. Boris, I said this on our chat in a podcast that's coming out in a few weeks. We were told the me, I. I've heard him say it a number of times. It's not about them, right? So it's never been about them. It's never been about you as a presenter. It's always about your audience. The phrase we always say to people to remember is that the champion is in the chair and the sage is on the stage. My job here is to be Getafix. You are the Asterix here. This is your movie. I am trying to give you one small little reframe that will make one tiny little difference into a presentation that you deliver. But if I don't do that, do you know what I am right now? What I will be for many of you, 3/4 of you, maybe more, a few weeks from now, I'll just be guy on stage. That's it. That's my lot. I'll be like, oh, that guy on the stage, black t-shirt, funny haircut, weird accent, right? That's it. You need to understand this. Your job is not to be the hero. This is not your movie. Your job is to audition for a better part, right? You want to audition for a better part in this film. You're not the hero. And once we understand that, good things happen. So we don't want to tell a story. What we want to do is we want to sell a story. We want to sell our audience a better version of their story in which there is a hero, them, a dragon, the threat, some treasure, an opportunity, a weapon, what we can help them with, and an action that they have to take. That's it. That's what we have to do. But even then, we get it wrong all the time. We think that they understand this. We think that they'll just get it because we get it, they get it. That's not the job in presenting. You know, there's a great line you've probably heard over and over again. You can take your horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Yeah, guys, I gave them all the information. They didn't do it. This is the stupidest quote I've ever heard in my entire life. Absolute, complete, not a cop-out. Take a horse to water. Hey, horse, are you thirsty? No. Really? Are you sure? Do you want some water? No, it's delicious. No, doesn't want the water. What can you do? Find a thirsty horse. Or better still, make the horse thirsty. That, ladies and gentlemen, is your job. If you have a story you want to tell at the beginning of your presentation, it better be a story about a dragon that is in their way. Right? You've got to sell a problem or an opportunity, the treasure. More stages than ever before. That's why I told you that at the beginning. More stages than ever before. This is an opportunity. We have an unfair advantage, but we've got to take it. But we've been lied to. The dragon is the lies you've been told. The opportunity is being able to go out there and amplify your authority. That's what I want to tell you. Make the horse thirsty. You know, sales trainers, often they say to people, guys, you know, you got to do, don't sell features, sell benefits. What? I don't really even understand this properly. You know, if we had to go out there and sell the features and benefits all the time, it would be a problem. Like, it's not about that. For me, it's like if you had to sell the features and benefits of an ambulance, like, what are you going to do? Right? Like, this is crazy for me. Why would you want to sell the features and benefits of an ambulance? If people don't need the ambulance, they don't need the ambulance. You know what you want to do? You want to sell the accident. Right? Once you can sell the accident, the problem, the dragon that exists, then they'll need the ambulance. As far as I'm concerned, this story of your presentation is very simple, or the beginning of the story arc. If you sell the accident, the ambulance sells itself. So that's what we have to get to. As a recap of this thing, it's not about telling a story. It's about selling them a story in which you exist. If you do want to read more about this, I have created a free little ebook here. It's called Story Seller. You can get it at storyseller.co.za. It's like 40 pages long. If you do get a chance to read it, please let me know. I finished writing it at 40 pages because I felt I'd said what I needed to say. I'm considering turning it into 100 pages. If you get through the 40 pages, please drop me a message on LinkedIn and let me know if you think it's worth fleshing out a little bit and adding more detail to. Anyway, I digress. So you got to sell them a story. So let's recap what we've discussed here in the last few minutes we've got together. I shared with you these presentation lies that must become lessons. The first was death by PowerPoint, but it's not about that. It's about writing a good presentation before you design one, before you deliver one. The next was about knowing your audience. It's not about your audience. You can't know them, but you can know yourself. Be the best version of that. The next one is a body language, the myth of body language, the Moravian myth. Body language, it's not the language, but it is the punctuation. And then we have to sell a story. Right? We don't have to tell them a story. It's not about your story you're telling them. It's about the story you sell them of them. And that are these lessons that I want to take you back. However, unless I want to be a liar, I did promise you at the beginning of this that I would give you 5 lessons. Right? So there is one more lesson that I want to share with you today. One more little lie that this whole conference that all of us are perpetuating. And that is this. This is not about presentations. And I know Boris agrees with me on this. It's not about presentations. Presentations in this case is the peanut butter and the pill. It's about something else. And I believe it's about leadership. It is about growing your authority. Presentations are just the tool, ladies and gentlemen. You know, if you want to jump onto Google right now, go onto Google and do a search and type in the words managers, right? You're going to find an image like this. Is there any of you that aspire to this? If any of you woke up this morning like, that's what I want to be. You know, that's what I want to do when I'm old. I want to be one of those stock photo type manager people. No, but go online and search for the word leaders and you'll find a whole different group. You will find these people that you can picture with their fists in the air, standing in front of an audience, right? Driving people to change. And that for me is critical. The difference between a leader and a manager is your ability to communicate. That's why this matters. That's what the next 2 days are. Yes, these experts are going to teach you to present, but more importantly, they're going to teach you something else. They're going to teach you the tools you need to lead. And remember, leadership isn't about authority. It's not about having permission. Leadership is about stepping up and leading. You're defined by a leader when other people want to follow you. And the easiest way to get people to follow you is to stand up and to speak. This is your opportunity. This is your unfair advantage. But to quote Neil Mulholland again, if action followed knowledge, we'd all have six packs. So we could have just spent 35 minutes together and had a bit of fun, or you could accept this as a challenge to go out there and decide to deliver a talk in a different way, to decide to do something different. And that leads me to lesson number 4 and 5 for you. The final lesson is to decide, ladies and gentlemen, to go out there and to lead loud. My name is Richard Mulholland, and it has been my privilege being with you today.
Back to the studio now. Now, it is very interesting what's going on. I don't know, actually I know, you are not monitoring the chat, but afterwards I'll try to somehow export the chat for you. People exploded with reactions during the talk, agreeing more or less constantly with you on what you were talking. Now, we have 7 or 8 more minutes, okay? We have 7 or 8 more minutes, and I want you to answer at least 3 questions. So let's try to keep it short because there are questions. And the first one that's getting a lot of votes is coming from Anelia, who is asking, hey, what about a story for opening a presentation? Is that a good idea?
Yes. And in fact, often, so one of the ways you can open a story is open a presentation with a story is that you can do something that people resonate with. So you're trying to create resonance. Your job at the beginning of a presentation is very simple. Very quickly from here, presentation is a 4-act thing. Give them a reason to care, give them a reason to believe, tell them what they need to know, tell them what they need to do. If you can tell them a story or a case study about something that they can resonate with, that shows an opportunity or a threat, you win. There are many, many good places to use stories in your presentation. You will have noticed I use stories all the time, but my stories have a purpose. So just having a good story and telling it, that's a flaw. Using a story to illustrate a point, that's great. So if I could illustrate that there's an opportunity right now, I told you the story about Missing Link losing its revenue and gaining it back up again so quickly because of all these stages. I wanted to combine a reason to care, the opportunity, with a reason to believe I can trust this person because they've done it. That was the purpose of that story up front. Stories are phenomenal, but you've got to try and make the point clear quickly so your audience knows why they're listening. However, I will say it's the one time in your presentation you have a bit of permission. Most people will give you the first few minutes to see, okay, I'm gonna let them run with this and to see where we're going. So yes, by all means, do. Use stories everywhere, just use them correctly. I hope that was somewhat helpful.
Sorry, I think so for sure. I think so for sure. So one more, we have time and we're very, very good in answering those, meaning in time respect. So one more here. There was a question almost at the beginning of the talk related to brainstorming your presentation, because you said that you are rewriting your presentation so many times and that helped you more or less rehearse it and know it. And so there is a question that says more or less like this. So the right approach is to put the bullet points in a notepad and then after organizing them, rewrite them as needed, right? And then put on the slides, right? So it's the story first and the design second. Is that the one?
Yes, but actually we put them on the slides before. There's one middle step that I like to do. I'm not sure that, results may vary. Step number 1, Post-it notes. Create the Post-it notes, do that there. Then I put it into Roam or Notion, where I can easily drag those nodes around as I see fit. And then I brainstorm with my team. We work out what's going to work. Then what we do is we build a prototype. This is the most important step, a pre-rehearsal. Having very, very basic slides, and it might just say the word I want to say, and then in brackets, picture of a dog eating peanut butter. Then I'm going to run through my presentation, pre-rehearse my presentation, and make sure everything makes sense. No, the dog eating peanut butter, that's not right. That peanut butter is too early. That's got to come on in the next click. So then I put another little note, picture of a dog with pills, picture of a dog with peanut butter. Then I try doing that again, blah, blah, blah. I tell my story, make sure it works. And then once we've got it dialed in and we've shuffled everything, don't waste your time designing slides before you got your story dialed in, or your poor designers are going through all of this work to make these beautiful images and you're like, that one doesn't fit. Then you start working on what's beautiful once you know that it works.
All right, brilliant. And related to that, by the way, there is a very interesting question that it came up last. I will be completely honest. It came up last, but I want to take that one and maybe end with your answer on that question, because I think I'll guess the answer, and I think your answer is something that everyone here should hear. Everyone here should hear? That sounds interesting. Now, the question is coming from Christo, who is asking, how much time on average do you normally take to prepare for a talk like this one? And do you actually record yourself to see how you're delivering?
Absolutely not. I never record myself. I can understand that there would be value to do that at times. I just don't do it. It's not a part of the process. I'm pretty comfortable to self-analyze at the end of my presentation. That didn't work. That did work. That's it. I did one run through last night. I did one full rehearsal, but I rehearsed my segues a lot. That's all I care about. How do I get my segue from A to B over and over? Like, how do I get from slide 1 to slide 2? If I can figure out a presentation is a river and there are stepping stones on that river. If I can figure out how to hop the stones and in the best way possible to get across the river, the best, I win. That's all I spend my time on, and I spend a lot of time on it. And this one, and this is all material, there's very little brand new material here, but newly structured material. And I must say, I probably spent 5 or 6 hours personally on the content, and an extra 2 or 3 hours brainstorming with my team and with Josh, who helped me design and put together the deck as well. So a substantial amount of time. And you know why? Because it matters. That, by the way, is because I had this material. This is material from my books. But if it was brand new, I'd probably spend 3-4 times that.
All right. So yeah, by the way, that last part, I think everyone needed to hear, because you guys are running like you run a presentation agency and you're experts in what you're doing, right? And you're still spending more or less, you said 10 hours on something that's even not completely all new, right? So that is, and then you said, hey, if it's absolutely everything is brand new, then it will be 3 to 4 times more. And I think that many people here know that that's not the case in the business world.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, ladies and gentlemen, there's one line, I said it earlier as a throwaway line, you earn your ovation in the preparation. Like, that's where you're going to decide if it's a good talk or not. And again, some people will hate it, some people like it. That's not what it's about. But it's about you being confident with what you do. The more you prepare, the easier this all becomes.
All right. Richard, there are more questions. There are 2 or 3 more questions. Do you want to take one more?
I am all yours.
Okay, one more coming from Svetelina, who is asking, if we start selling a story by highlighting the problem, isn't there a chance that the audience members will think more of the issue rather than the resolution that we are going to offer?
Yes, and that's a good thing. They don't care about your resolution, but the more they care about, the deeper the hole you can dig your audience. And again, there's 2 things, right? And this is specifically more for sales, but it's actually selling. Remember, we're always selling something. We're selling ideas. There's a fear and a greed. These are 2 things to motivate action. If I can build up both the opportunity and the threat, the dragon and the treasure behind the dragon in the minds of my audience, to get them obsessing with it, your brain has now got an itch that it needs to scratch. By the way, very, very important point here, just subtle on sales, and I hope this doesn't go over. Be sure that you're selling the problem that you can uniquely solve. We call this your UPS, the unique problem only you can solve, as opposed to your USP. And the reason this is important is a lot of presentations do the job for their competitors. They sell the generic problem. Oh, photocopying is terrible. If you had more photocopiers, life would be great. That's generic. You've got to sell the unique part of your value that you think that you can offer that your competitors can't. Convince them that that's the real issue we're discussing. Once they believe you, every presentation becomes a 2-horse race. You versus the best of the other 4 people. If they're looking for somebody to scratch that itch, all you have to do is to say, now, if you agree with this problem as I've discussed it and nod at them a lot, they nod back and say, ladies and gentlemen, enter the light switch. And now everything works. And then they're like, oh, that is what we need. And then they win.
Perfect. Richard, we are right on time. And you answered almost all of the questions. That's how a pro does it, right? So thank you so much. I will definitely export the chat for you afterwards. Everyone is super pumped and super enthusiastic for the session that you just delivered. Thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully we'll see you again next year, because why not? Why not?
Absolutely.
I'm completely sure that
Thank you everyone for your time and attention. It's very much appreciated. And thank you, Boris, for giving me the opportunity.